Hey everyone, this is Chad. Thanks for coming back to Arc Record Wargaming. Today we have a match between JR and Isaiah. JR brought his High Elves, and Isaiah brought the Chaos Warriors. This is our first Warhammer the Old World battle report. Stay tuned for more. If you've been watching the channel a little bit lately, you've been seeing I've been getting set up and getting settled in. So also stick around to the end. The guys have a really nice sit and chat after the battle and do a post-game. And they also meander off into other directions talking about things about the Old World. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Like, share, subscribe, join the horde. Here we go.
Open battle. Looks like deployment is, we've got terrain deployed already. Roll off to see who chooses which side and deploys first. Once that's done, the first turn is roll off, but the first person to finish deploying gets the +1. It can go to a fixed length or random game length for this one. Fixed length is 4 6 rounds, or until one side concedes. And then no special rules and victory points. That's pretty much it.
What page is that
at? 288. Hi, my name is JR. I'm playing Lutheran Seaguard, or in the Old World now it's High Elves, with the Old Storm of Chaos Seaguard theme. 2 bolt throwers with crew. I have 18 Seaguard with thrusting spears, bows, shields, and armor. They did take the veteran upgrade, and they have the Razor Standard. Inside that unit is my High Elf Noble, who is using the Bow of Avalorn as an upgrade. He has the Lore Master's Cloak, the Fiery Burning Blade, and the Seed of Rebirth. So the Seed of Rebirth is I believe it's regen, yeah. And the Burning Blade is a flaming weapon. No, nothing real there. The Bow of Avalorn is just a really long bow for range, 30 feet, or 30 inches, I mean. And the Lore Master's Cloak, the whole unit has a 4-up ward save versus magic missiles.
Ooh, cool.
Because fireballs are a thing. Mage over here is a level 2 mage with the, she has the silvery wand giving her the extra spell. She also has a Seed of Rebirth and using battle magic with Valza making Oaken Shield and Fireball. She is a level 2 mage using Elementalism with the Ruby Ring of Ruin, so also a Fireball, and Plague of Rust and Storm's Call, and she has, that was her, is the Ruby Ring of Ruin. So that's it. Pretty quick,
how many
small
points
list.
total?
1,000 exactly.
Yeah, don't forget Shadow.
Oh, and then I have Shadow Warriors in reserve. So out of 6 Shadow Warriors in ambush.
I'm Isaiah. I am going to be playing Warriors of Chaos today in this battle report. So I'm going to kick things off. I have a unit of chosen Chaos Knights, just with the Mark of Undivided. A Dragon Ogre who's upgraded to the Shartak. He's got a great weapon and heavy armor. Now we have a Demon Prince. He is got wings, Mark of Zinch. He's level 4, Biting Blade, Favor of the Gods, Earthen Ring, Ruby Ring of Ruin, and the armor of Meteoric Iron, and he took battle magic. Next up is 6 Forsaken of Khorne, and then we have a unit of 5 Chaos Warhounds, and then we have 6 more Forsaken of Khorne, and then another Dragon Ogre with heavy armor, great weapon as a Shartak.
And how many points total?
997.
Well, I had a 5 until your dice knocked it over. So
sorry.
Jenga.
All right. Okay.
Did you choose to go first or second?
I will definitely choose first.
Yeah, there's no reason not to.
All right, here we go. Chaos, turn 1.
Dragon Ogres and the Forsaken, they marched up this way, trying to put some pressure on this right flank. The dogs ended up vanguarding and marching, trying to shoot up there and provide a little bit of a cover before the ballista rains down. Forsaken also marched, trying to come up this way to crash into the lines. Then we had the marching of the Chosen and then Dragon Ogre, hoping to get in there and do some hits. the Demon Prince as the rolled on the Gaze of the Gods table, so he ended up getting a Dark Fury, so he's got an extra attack for the remainder of the game. After he moved up, we cast some spells in the shooting phase, and we did a Fireball from the Ruby Ring, failed to cast. Then we did a Fireball from the Lore of Battle, ended up killing 3 Seaguard from that unit. And then we ended up putting down a Pillar of Fire right here, hoping to push that forward and burn some more elves. But that is it.
Alright, here we go. High Elves, turn 1.
Alrighty, turn 1, elves. Looks like repeater bolt thrower shot a bunch of dogs, nothing happened. They failed to wound. Here, the 2 mages cast Fireball, or first cast Plague of Rust at the knights, got it off. The Demon Prince failed to dispel it, even with his higher level, and so they had a -2 save. With a contingent of 2 fireballs from the ring and the spell here, plus some shooting from the Seaguard, they managed to wipe out the chosen Knights of Chaos to the man. Then a single bolt thrower fired a single bolt at the Dragon Ogre and did 2 wounds with its single bolt. And that was it.
Alright, here we go. Chaos, turn 2.
Really super eventful turn 2. We pushed up on the right flank with the Forsaken and the Dragon Ogres one more time. The other Forsaken are clearing up this way, and then Dogger here, he's going to try and, sacrifice himself for his Lord and Savior. The Demon Prince in the in the shooting phase was very uneventful. Ruby Ring failed to cast, Fireball failed to cast. Was able to only get off the Blue Fire of Zench, and he was able to take off 2 Seaguard. The dogs over here made a charge against his ballista, and basically it was just a tie combat. We whiffed, and now they're sitting there waving hello to each other. And that is it.
Alright, here we go. High Elves, turn 2.
Alrighty, turn 2 for the High Elves. Very uneventful and really bad for the High Elves. The bolt thrower failed to hit the Dragon Ogre. The whole unit of 14 shots here or so that went into the Dragon Ogre failed to wound. And here, they tied with 1 dead elf and 1 dead dog. So they're continuing to have their combat over here. Otherwise, the fireballs didn't do anything, either didn't go off or failed to wound the Dragon Ogre. That's it.
And your guys are still in reserve.
Yes, the Shadow Warriors are still in reserves.
Alright, here we go. Chaos, turn 3.
Alright, so at the end of Chaos turn 3, we had quite a little bit of things happen here. So we have the same old Forsaken and the Dragon Ogre are still pushing up that right flank side. The dogs and the War Machine are in a bit of a slap fight there. Nothing much has changed. The Forsaken here are now pressing towards those lone Seaguard. The Demon Prince now, however, on his Gaze of the Gods this turn rolled a 6, so he's +1 strength and leadership, getting very booned by Zinch. And as we could tell in the shooting phase, he was able to get all 3 spells off with Fireball, Blue Fire, and Pillar Fire on this unit and cause pretty heavy casualties. The Dragon Ogre charged into the War Machine and then was able to take that down, and he tested the reform, so now he's going to threaten that side of those Seaguard there.
Here we go. High Elves, turn 3.
Alrighty, High Elves turn 3. Things went poorly for the High Elves yet again. Failed to do anything to the Dragon Ogre with fireballs, just all bounced off of his hide. The Pillar of Fire killed 3 elves as it was leaving because it penetrates through their armor. The dogs and the 1 High Elf had a nice little slap fight. Good dogs. And any bow shots that went towards the Forsaken failed to penetrate through their armor. The High Elf mage moved out of the way to try and fireball, failed. This one failed. And any other magics failed except for Storm Call on the Ogre, but the initiative is not going to matter. So that's the end of the turn. Oh, and the ambushers failed to come in.
What's the guy in the back corner there?
That's my mage.
It's the mage. Okay.
Yeah. They failed the fireballs.
Okay. Here we go. Chaos. Turn 4.
End of turn 4. The Chaos here. This unit still did what they did all game, pushed up. The dogs and the ballistas' little slap fight finally came into fruition, and the dogs were able to finally take it down. The Forsaken and the Dragon Ogres charged that last unit of Sea Guard. The Noble had a duel with the Dragon Ogre Shartak, and he ended up getting taken down. Demon Prince over here casted some spells. He was able to throw a fireball at that mage and take her down. In the beginning of the turn, the Pillar of Fire moved over to touch the wizard there, and that burned her with the vortex. And then later in the shooting phase, he recasted Pillar of Fire to try and help out the dogs with the ballista, but to no avail. He didn't make it that far, and the dogs were able to win in combat. So at the end of this turn, that is it.
The end of Chaos didn't get my turn 4. The ambushers never came in. That was the only left in the game. There's no way that they can take out the rest of the Chaos army. So in this case, the game is done.
Great game,
yeah. Thank you. I guess the main thing that we discovered was we both had a decent fireball turn, and then for the rest of the time, most of the time the fireballs failed.
Mm-hmm.
The turning point in my side was when the fireballs basically failed to cast, or the wizards failed to cast any of the spells they needed to either protect with Oaken Shield or to kill this side charger there and thus potentially to weather there, and then the sheer amount of casualties that just happened before the Forsaken charged in. The dogs did what they were supposed to do. I'm surprised that this one poor lone elf on the bolt thrower held out for as long as it did.
That was amazing. He was just battling back and forth.
Yeah, and then the only, if we want to do army comparisons, the only thing that I feel with an army like this, or the forces that we chose, was at this point, as we were discussing earlier, the level 4 Demon Prince, the level 4 mage part is not as bad. Sure, you're throwing 4 spells around instead of my 2 or
right.
potentially 3 with the Silver Wand. But what ends up happening is the level 4 giving more often a better chance to dispel and cast, make it harder for even the 2 level mages to try and dispel. With the extended range is difficult to deal with. But the Demon Prince alone, with movement and toughness and stuff, hard to deal with an army that's somewhat specialized like this. Even with the bolt throwers,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think my army as it sits has enough tools to deal with big creatures like that. Like the Dragon Ogres, okay, I put some wounds on it, did 3 of the 4 wounds on that Dragon Ogre. If I could get a bolt thrower shot on it, if I'm lucky, it only does 2 wounds.
Right.
The movement 9 flying means you can keep your Demon Prince out of the way and do exactly what you did with it, which is sit back and cast fireballs and everything. Magic missiles, even with the 4-up save I had on the unit for magic missiles, weight of dice eventually means that those 4s and 5s are going to fail.
Yep.
I did really well with the knights at the very beginning. That was the major threat at the beginning.
Yep, I was just going to bring that up.
Yeah.
Once you, in the very beginning there, when you did that combo, of course, of the Plague of Rust and then brought down those knights, after that, after starting that strong, I figured, okay, now that's just going to move on, because then I expected the Joker, that to go down, because of the shooting from the elves, and then plus more magic coming in. And then I was foreseeing the Forsaken to be brought down so low, because being a unit of 3, or unit of 6, if you would bring them down to under 3, he's got nowhere to hide behind. and then that ballista could shoot at him. You know, you could do all your damage to him. Granted, yep, he has got like a 5-up, 4-up, and then another 5-up, but only 4 wounds. So if he has to be played with very cautiously and very like moving up behind and leading from the back. Because if you throw him out in the open, he's done.
Right.
And that's 400 points gone right there.
Yep.
350, 400, whatever he is. I have to double check. The other thing too, I think was crucial, was letting the dogs get to that ballista. They should never have gotten there. That was your when you were rolled to hit on that multi-shot, that whiff, that costed it. Because they should have died, and then I would have figured you would have used both ballistas, take down the ogre,
take down the dragon ogre.
you know, throw some shots more into the Forsaken, take down the other dragon ogre.
The other thing is with your army, and I discovered this when I was playing High Elves last time, one of the last times I played a High Elf list, is your army has a lot of movement 5 to 7 stuff. Your dragon ogres move fast, your knights move fast, even the Forsaken at movement 5 still move fast for troops. And a movement 9 demon prince means that for an army like I have, with a couple of bolt throwers and a unit of a brick of spearmen basically, and then ambushers, which never came in.
That was a huge. It would have changed a couple things if they would have came.
If I could have got I think next time. I mean, ambushers are interesting, but I think I probably would have taken them with the shoot the feigned flight.
Oh, 100%.
Where they could, you know, whatever, turn around and then shoot them, because that would allow me to probably take out your dogs as the threat to my bolt thrower, and allow my bolt thrower to do a little bit more work where it needed to be done. With me trying to ambush in the back, not knowing what your army list was ahead of time, of course, in case you had chaff and stuff, that's what they were supposed to be for. And I think that in a normal battle like this, especially against chaos with a lot of stuff they have, unless you're doing a lot of skirmish stuff, they would be better with the feigned flight as opposed to ambushers, because they never came in to do anything. So,
correct.
You know, that's a whole unit that did not participate in the game for 4 rounds.
They would have benefited a lot by protecting your bolt thrower, 110%. Because if they would have just sat in front, killed the dogs, yes, the Forsaken would have been moving up, but guess what? You'd be shooting at them and then moving away and then shooting at them again, whittling them down to the point where they're no longer relevant. And then you got the bolt thrower working on those big targets all the way down. And then obviously, then towards the end, the Demon Prince would be out in the open, and then boom.
That would be the hope.
Yeah.
And we both had poor magic rolls in terms of trying to either dispel or cast.
I don't think my Ruby Ring worked for me.
You got it once in the last turn, and that was when you wiped out so much stuff.
Yes, yeah. It finally decided it was
because
just
after 2 fireballs and a blue fire, all getting off and shooting into that unit, that 4-up save with the cloak against magic missiles, just weight of dice.
Yep.
You know, if you can wound enough of them, because they're easy to wound, being elves, being toughness 3, you know, sure, I'm rolling 14 dice and on 4-up saves, that's great, but statistically that means 7 of them are going to die.
correct. 50-50.
You know, yeah. So that is, you know, I took that expecting fireballs and things, just because it's a pretty common thing with the ruby ring and a fireball, so you get the double fireball turn. I was like, okay, taking the cloak with the 4-up ward save against the magic missiles is great, but you're still talking 50-50, and if you get enough of them off. And with the level 2s, it was harder to overpower your casts, just because you're level 4, so that extra +2 can make a difference, and a few times it did. And then neither of us miscast, but we both got an overpowering. Your overpowering was on a really good spell. Unfortunately, mine was on the Oaken Shield thing, so I slowed down your Dragon Ogre, but he was 2 inches away from a charge anyway, so it didn't do a heck of a lot.
The Val's on making was going to be pretty...
Yeah, I tried the Val's on making on your armor.
That was pretty amazing.
Got it off, but it was easy to dispel at that point, because it's not level 4. I mean, if you really want to get that off, you're wanting it on a higher level mage. You have an equal footing.
Yeah.
But I think I knew to expect there was going to be heavy armor. I mean, most chaos lists are one of 2 things. You either got a lot of marauders and a lot of dogs, they want a lot of things just to swarm across the table, or you're potentially trying for lots of single unit dragon ogres and MSUs with heavy armor and such. With the Forsaken over like chosen chaos warriors or even normal chaos warriors, chosen knights of course are always a go-to.
Yeah, the chosen warriors. The big thing about them, of course, is they aren't core.
Right.
So that's where the Forsaken step up. And honestly, Forsaken compared to Chaos Warriors is such a toss up, right? Obviously the Chaos Warriors are going to be a little bit cheaper, and then they can take, they come with close order, they come with full command, so they give you a little bit more combat res. But the Forsaken themselves, they move faster and they hit a lot harder.
Yeah.
And in small units, putting those two threats in certain places forces you, instead of one big brick of Chaos Warriors,
Right.
you have two MSU threats to worry about who can dish out potentially out of those 6 guys with 4 attacks on the charge, 20 something.
Right.
That's worth about 20 Chaos
Yeah,
Warriors.
the Forsaken definitely, which is sad to me because I have a Chaos Warrior list as well, and I love the actual Chaos
Yes,
Warrior models
I do
and everything
too.
else, but they're not in the greatest of places, especially if you're trying for like tournaments or the meta, which I usually don't. Is that the new one?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the one came from Slaves of Darkness.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just not a huge fan of the old one. A lot of old metal, I was gonna say monitors, metal miniatures,
Yes.
like the old Chaos Warriors. Like a lot of people, like that nostalgia, but to me, like
I
that
don't.
squatting formation is
Yep,
just,
I've never liked the old school ones. But now there's 3 different ones. There's the old metal one for the Demon Prince that doesn't have the wings, it just has almost Space Marine like backpack,
Yep.
big metal hands and stuff. That one's not a bad model, just a pain in the butt to wield in terms of putting it together and everything. Then they had the plastic one, which wasn't too bad. Now this is the new plastic one. I tend to run themed lists like my Zinch list or whatever, so my Demon Prince tends to be, blinged out in Zinchy stuff, bird heads and the such, so I'm not always using it. But as a stock one, then the newest iteration is actually pretty decent. I've been seeing a lot of, talk online about the Dragon Ogres being a pretty go-to choice for a lot of Slaves of Darkness / Chaos lists.
Mm-hmm. The main thing about them though is like they're just oppressive and they help push that aggressiveness.
Yeah,
It forces
movement
you to deal
7.
with them.
Yeah,
Yep.
the movement 7 and the good armor and all that means that they can get there, and you have to deal with them because you can't afford to let them charge in and swing with their great weapons,
Yeah.
because they'll weather the most attacks back and then,
Yep.
do a lot of damage. And they have the ability like there to get into a flank if they can do it.
But speaking of though, when we're talking about list comparing, I was very thrown off by what I was expecting to run into. Definitely sword masters, definitely maybe a unit of dragon princes, definitely a level 4. I was thinking that there's going to be a little bit more bodies in terms of not just a Lothern, but maybe like a unit of archers as well, a unit of regular spearmen with an archer's attachment, even White Lions, Alarian Reavers, because I've played a lot of High Elf games against those, so I was like, okay, that's probably going to be the norm here. So I'm going to bring something that'd be equally aggressive, So,
Yeah, with this, the old Lothern Storm of Chaos Lothern Seaguard list couldn't take any of those.
Mm-hmm.
They could take Spearmen, Lothern Seaguard, Archers, Shadow Warriors, Bolt Throwers, Mages and Nobles, and then a Murworm. So translating it into the old world, keeping that list, because this was an old list, was, for 1,000 points, decent sized unit of 18, 19 Seaguard with a hero, and then a couple of level 2 mages, because I'm thinking 1,000 points. I want a little bit more versatility as opposed to just one mage trying to get off. I wanted some extra chances to cast a few things. Use a couple different schools of magic so that I could counter whatever might, like, okay, this one's got elementalism, this one's got battle magic, okay, what can we do with that? And then the Shadow Warriors are there to either ambush or to screen, again, to try and deal with chaff and such. The last time I played against a High Elf list and I was playing with my Vampire counts, I dealt with, it was a 1,500 point game, and I dealt with 2 dragons and all cavalry. And
so very hyper aggressive.
I couldn't,
Yeah.
there was just nothing I could do about it. I folded like a wet taco.
Yeah.
And that's just because 2 dragons, even though they're the lesser dragons at 1,500 points, 2 of them, one with a noble, one with a mage, was really difficult to deal with. Again, maneuverability, toughness, armor save, all that such. And then 3 squads of horses running around, which tends to be, cavalry is a pretty solid choice in the old world right now. The units I had, skeletons and such just can't fight against it.
The thing about it is, again, with Old World, it's kind of coming towards like that MSU. MSU, hit them hard, fast moving things, get up the field, get into position, flanks, rears, all that good stuff. The whole core mentality is spending like the minimum amount of core, because everything that you want is going to be either in the rare category or the special category. Typical core hammer games, which is one that I would really like to play one of those sometime. Straight up 50%, I think it's like 50 to 60% of your army has to be core, and it's just like, you know, that's classic Warhammer. Bricks of just regular old troops going head to head right there.
Maybe that's the next one.
That could be definitely the next one. You know, warriors and marauders against, you know, lines of spearmen and archers. That would be
my 2,000 point list for Sea Guard is just a slightly bigger brick of Sea Guard, 2 squads of archers, 2 units of Shadow Warriors, 4 bolt throwers, and an eagle. Because again, Sea Guard, that was the old list, and with the, I like the Sea Guard because they have the archery as well as the spears and shields, and I just like the theme of them. The old list was interesting just because at the time they used to be able to, at the beginning of the turn, everything shot. So you softened all your targets up early, which was kind of a, you know, it had its problems, just like any of those lists did way back when.
One thing too, if there would have been a hill, you would have had all day to shoot at him.
Well, yeah, until you guys, you know, got up and charged them in combat.
True.
But yeah, the
hills help a lot when you're trying to
you get all your shots.
You get all your shots, and you can see over.
And you can see over units, so that does
you
help.
can't hide behind nothing.
Yeah.
Hills are definitely, especially if you're playing a shooty based army, you're gonna want to put like your ballistas on the hill, your archers or something on the hill.
Yeah.
Okay. So next time with that, the next battle will have to be on the elven grounds. You know, forested hills, because it makes sense here. There's no hill, it's just chaos.
Right,
it's
it's all chaos. You know.
It's just
so
all
this was
broken magma, skulls for the skull throne, you know.
Impassable terrain, the big hill in the middle, which is difficult to get much on. I love that piece of GW terrain, but you can get one unit on there, or maybe a skirmisher or something like that. But it's out of the deployment zones, you have to move into it, which with that kind of army was not what my army wanted to do. I deployed far enough back hoping to get shots and cast spells and stuff before to whittle down, which I did with your warrior or your knights.
Yeah, that hurt. I mean, they just got swiped. Whoosh,
yeah, the one time the Plague of Rust came off and you weren't able to dispel it because I was far enough away. It got, you know, it was succeeded, and then the shooting was able to whittle that down to the end with some fireballs and some arrows and such. In the current way this army is built, this doesn't do well against the current kind of MS, you know, cavalry and stuff. Mainly because it's kind of the old hammer kind of. I've got my one brick, I shack up, I fire until they get to me, and then hope I can, you know, deal with it. With smaller units that can move fast, there's not enough shooting or enough answers that you can't, with multiple units, make it through. And Chaos has, you know, they're all mostly heavily armored enough that the strength 3 bows aren't doing as much without either like the Razor Standard, which we forgot about, that works on shooting. That probably would have made a little bit of a difference because I should have remembered on some of my arrows and such. But overall, with armor, with the downgrade to armor saves, but then also the downgrade where strength doesn't create AP anymore, it seems that a lot of the bow shooting is just strength with no AP. You're trying to do weight of dice in the hopes that you can force enough saves that the person, even with a 3-up save, will roll a couple 1s and 2s and you'll take them down. And that happened a couple of times, but overall, if you have a bad shooting phase, just like anything, you know, that's going to mean that that's one whole turn that you're now closer.
Yep, and I can attest to the weight of shooting. I played 2 games in a row that were both a shooty High Elf army and a shooty Empire army. And let me tell you, weight of dice into Chaos, I mean, yeah, we got good saves, but, you know, when you're shooting almost 30 crossbow shots, 40 bow shots, you're going to fail a lot of, you know, 2-ups. You're going to go down to, you know, a few guys in just, you know, a couple rounds. So I personally think that that's Chaos' biggest weakness, is a shooty army, and so hence why, you know, the MSU's a thing, just something to get us up there, because we don't have any shooting to dish back. You know, we have the Hell Cannon, but who brings the Hell Cannon? Like, let's be honest. That
the 8th edition I did, but
yeah, well, yeah, an edition ago, I'm sure it was fine, but, you know, so that's why we rely heavily on, you know, magic, like most armies, of course, that gets us our supporting spells or damage spells from afar, and then our ability just to push, and we just need to survive and push. They almost feel like, to me, it's like playing Space Marines in 40k a little bit. You know, you got the good saves, you got the low model count, you know, but the specialness and like they're decent in everything, but like masters of really none.
right, the Jack of all trade army.
Yeah.
And terrain makes a big difference. I've seen some old world boards where it's, oh look, there's a forest on the corner, then there's maybe a hill out of the way, and the most of it is blank in the middle, which, if you're playing core, is great, because then you get the blocks of units all pushing forward, and you have your big clash in the middle, and you know, battle it out. Otherwise, it favors the shooting armies really, really well, because there's nowhere to hide, and you almost, that again leads into having the fast units to try and get as close, you know, as you can, and have enough targets out there that they have to. You force enough target priority that something's going to get through. You can't just have a couple of blocks, because they'll focus fire on it, and you know, a third of your army's now gone, because they can shoot from across the board with no intervening terrain, no blocking terrain, anything like that. I tend not to like those kinds of games, to be honest, just because, I mean, it historically makes sense that you would choose the field of battle to be on a field of battle with nothing in between you, but we're in a magic world with fantasy. I like to, and you know, I like to see various terrain to force you to some strategy of like, okay, I have to split my army to go around this. You know, I can pincher move them, or I can create a choke point now because I can block this area. I like those kinds of things, and with like arcane monuments and terrain that does weird things, it's part of the allure to me for the old world, and you know, the magic that resides in it, and it's chaos and all this stuff going on. The green field with like one hill on each side and maybe a forest off on the, you know, again with the blank in the middle, it way favors, much like, you know, you're talking about with 40k, you know, it's in the old editions of 40k, those big shooting armies, if you didn't have buildings in the way, you know,
like Tau.
Yeah, Tau, you know, even to a point at the time, Guard from back when, where it was all the artillery and stuff, you're trying to move across, you have nothing blocking, and you're just getting hammered.
Right.
You know, you need something to mitigate the range, but in doing so, if you don't use terrain, then you're using, like you did, with more smaller units that can move fast and have a decent save.
Well, that's why I tried to break the board up a little bit, to
Right.
put some choke points in there, not just leave an open field in the middle, because I don't even like the look of that. It doesn't look right. It looks like something's wrong.
Yeah. Well, to me,
Just visually, I mean.
yeah, visually it's part of the, you know, you've got all this terrain that you can either make yourself or that GW has put out, and then you don't use any of it but this little hill and maybe 3 trees. Like those, you know, those battles are crazy to me. I mean, GW does those, like the chapel and the fortress monastery and all that stuff, cool buildings, the graveyard of more, all these cool terrain. They're not great for rank and flank games in a sense, and you're not having a giant battle with thousands of troops in a village, but visually it looks really cool, and it gives you some, again, those things where you can have units hide behind things or ambush, or you know, you can protect your wizards if you need to, or a small unit of archers. You can have terrain like that if it's just open with just hills and forests, which I see a lot of, because that's right now the way people do things, especially tournaments and such, because they want to try and make every board the same and every board fair, and I get that. But for home games, I prefer to have terrain that you can take advantage of. And right now, I don't think any of the armies do like they do in AOS, where they can bring their own. You know, like,
I think Wood Elves can.
Can they bring the forest?
I think Wood Elves bring the forest. Yeah.
You know, which helps them a lot.
Yeah.
But
most of the thing, or the games, I don't know if you've seen them, but Squarebase put out like a their little match thing. So usually the go-to is like, you know, 2 line of sight blocking 2 hills, and then 2 trees.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of the thing. And then you mirror match everything, which is fine. I
That's
mean,
a lot of tournament stuff.
Yeah,
40K
like
does the same thing.
Pick up game, match play game, yeah, that's fine. But, you know, having these is just thematic. I mean, yeah, it helps and hinders a lot of different armies, but the thematic behind it still just captures you into the moment. You know, we really painted the picture that we were fighting in the Chaos Wastes and all that about, you know, the battle within here. Because if we would go, you know, with that typical, you know, okay, it would be a hill and a hill, a forest and a forest, and then a house and a house, you know, and it gets kind of old after a while. But then when you're, you know, when you're doing special thematic type games, having stuff random based on like the scenery, the way the battle is, or where it's at, it helps a lot with immersion.
Yeah, it's more interesting to play on, even if it, I mean, for me, even when the terrain is a detriment, because like I couldn't shoot past this, you know, big hill necessarily, you know, that forced me to place my bolt throwers in areas where I had a better line of, you know, field of line of fire, allowed you to protect your stuff coming up at the very beginning, you know, with the split middle, you know, I can't have both bolt throwers focusing on it until they're almost too close. So, but visually it just makes it more fun, even if it's a bit of a detriment for whatever army is playing against it. You know,
So the next rematch is High Elves, eh? we'll play in the land of the High Elves.
Yep.
Yep.
So you guys can do bigger bricks if you want. Do you want to do 2K next time, is what you're thinking, or want to do another 1K? It's up to you guys.
I don't know. It's up to you.
I mean,
we could do, if you want to do a more specialized, we can do a little bit more Warhammer.
You know, I have for my, like I said, for my High Elves, I basically I can make a 2,000 point list with, you know, 4 heroes and 4 bolt throwers, and you know the block you see here with some extra archers and another units of shadow warriors. Just because those are the models I have, you know, for that, and because it was the old list, they're not going to have the horses. I mean, I understand Elven Cavalry is really good. It's not going to. I have a Frost Phoenix now that I got to get painted to match it, so I can actually take that because it's somewhat thematic. Now, the one thing I want to add to this list is the Sky Cutters. We haven't got to the High Elf phase of the Old World yet, but the models get reprinted, and people are charging $150 for a stupid Sky Cutter on eBay, and I'm like, no, I'm not going to pay that. I don't care. GW said they will reprint it. It just may not be for 6 months. I'm going to wait.
Yep, and that's exactly why I have a lot of third-party miniatures, because I just want to play the game.
Right.
I just want to play the game. I want to have fun with it. I don't have the money for the inflation of models going up in price by 150%. You know, that's just absurd.
And my Seaguard list, I'll keep it as Seaguard. It's already painted. I can add a couple of things here and there. So I'll probably never have the cavalry and all that such. But you know, if I get a couple of Sea Cutters and have my Frost Heart, then I have a little bit more variety if I need to add something in. Yeah. And enough bolt throwers can be an answer for against a dragon. You know, 2 wounds at a pop. With enough strength and armor punching ability that they have with their single shots, I can do, with a good roll, I can do 6 wounds to something in a round, and that's a pretty good chunk, if not all of the wounds for some of the lighter monsters I might have to deal with. But it's never been a super competitive army, it's just thematic and fun. And I can add a few pieces to it to add to the theme, because I usually play themed armies. And I think that, you know, I can go up to somewhere probably 2250. I think is about the max. I think I plotted it out with, you know, full on, but a lot of it tends to be specialized. Like you're making these level 4 wizards with 100 points of magic items, you know, just to get those extra points. You know, ultimately, I don't have enough chaff stuff to flesh it out beyond a certain point in terms of points. So my points have to go vertical, usually with, you know, kind of hero hammering a little bit, but I don't have the things like I don't have a dragon to put the noble on, so I just have a couple of nobles.
Well, I have a dragon and I have some spearmen for High Elves, and I have 2 units of dragon princes. So if you want to play with them, you're welcome to.
It doesn't fit that theme of this army, which is why I like the, you know, why I play this army or whatever. And it's not my go-to, you know, my passion project for, you know, that's always been my Tzeentch Chaos list, which I'm reworking on because of the stuff in the Old World and changing some of the. We've added new things to the Tzeentch line, so I want to incorporate some of that into the list.
I think a Charybdis or even a Merworm, and you could say either one of those or a dragon. I think that would fit perfect with that.
Right, you can do the counts as, like, if I get some sort of merworm and just run it with the dragon stats, that's fine. It looks a little weird with a flying, serpent, but, it just undulates its way across the terrain instead of flies.
But hey, it would fit thematic, and it would give you another,
Right, and it would give it one of
toy.
those units that does actually add some punch to the army.
Exactly.
But for the next time, I mean, we can, if we want to try Warhammer, we can.
I'll bring all those Marauders you sold me.
Then you can have Marauders and Chaos Warriors.
Yep. A blanket field of
and
just
dogs.
Oh yeah, dogs too. Yep, I got another 5 of those. On top of that, and
Yeah, we can figure it out.
bring the giant this time. Maybe the Chimera. Because I recently finished painting the giant. I said I'd paint the Chimera.
Oh, okay.
That'll be after. That kind of stuff will be after I catch up a little bit on the High Elves. My High Elves. I've gotten really big into the Lothern Sea Guard too. I use those. I don't have any ballistas or anything, but I just have the cavalry portion. I got, because I love Dragon Princes. I think they're cool. Silver Helms, the Reavers, and all that, and then the no Sky Cutter, no Chariots. I really want one though. Want a couple of those. Those would be fun. No dragons, just mostly Elven Lords that go quick.
Yeah, and it's pretty effective. When like I said, when I played against it, it was 3 or 4 squads of cavalry and then 2 dragons was pretty much the list. And there wasn't a lot I could do against the fast-moving, decently armored units with the vampire counts.
Yeah.
Might have had a little bit better luck, but at 1500, the 2 dragons just made both the lists I had were not well equipped to deal with that many wounds with that good of an armor save, and the fact that they still get strike first because elves. And even if you give them strike last, they still have, I charged this many, so I'm still got a ridiculous initiative. So it's a little difficult to deal with it. And
the one thing about that I was gonna say was with the whole theory behind dragons, I feel like that hype is still almost dying down because now people are figuring out ways to beat them, and that is static combat res that will beat those big.
Yeah, if you can counter it with
monsters.
if you can get something to lock it down and then actually try and get other things into it to beat it with combat res, that's great. You just got to catch them first.
Yep, you got to catch them, or you just let them come to you. You create like a choke point where you want him. You give him that juicy target where he sees red, and he soars straight to it.
And a lot of the dragon, at least for the High Elves, the 2 minor dragons have impetuous anyway.
Exactly.
So, if they can't make the test, they're forced to charge it anyway. And, that can lead them into trouble if you bait them right. But it's still a difficult counter. I mean, you didn't bring the ridiculous Chaos Lord on Dragon, which was one of the big, abusers, the weird Nurgle combination, blah, blah, blah.
Well, you can't even do that anymore. You can't get to that ridiculous level because they took the bedazzling helm off that. And you can only put it on, I think it's infantry and cavalry.
Yeah,
you can't even put it on, because I was theorycrafting a Chaos Lord on a, not a Juggernaut chariot, the one with the big...
The Gore Beast?
Yes, with the Gore Beast chariot. I was trying to theorycraft something like that, running around with him, and of course I had the helm on him and stuff, and I was thinking, oh, this might be much better. I mean, yeah, he doesn't have fly, but he's still got the tough save, he's still got the Mark of Nurgle, he's got the high toughness, high wounds, but
and then the killing blow because he's on a chariot.
Yeah, his the Gore Beast gets itself killing blow, and then he could take Monster Slayer, so then you can potentially one-shot any threat. That kind of theory crafting with that would work, but again, to chariot, it's can't soar past units. It's just gonna have to wait for its opportunity. It might be,
Yeah. The one thing going for the chariot I've seen recently is the fact is Monster Slayer and Killing Blow and any of those one-shot kills don't work on it because it's a dude on a chariot. It's not a monster, it's not an infantry, and it's a chariot. So it's a interesting form of protection for your whatever hero you put on a chariot, no matter what the army is.
One of the things I like that I'm experimenting now is a Sorcerer Lord on a demonic mount, but no longer. I always used to bring him on a chariot. But now I brought him on a demonic mount. But I do kind of miss a chariot for that thick, defensive. Because chariots give him a lot of defense. They give him that flat 3-up armor save, and then they give him, I think it's like 4 wounds, 3 wounds. So he has like 6.
Well, yeah, and he doesn't replace the crew he has on top of it, so
Yeah.
you still get all the crew attacks and everything else.
And I think they're the same stat line as Chosen. I believe their weapons go 5 with Albergs on there. So, 2 attacks piece.
Which
steeds,
mark are you going for if you put him on a demonic mount? You going generic, or are you going to put him on a Siege on a disc, or?
I put him on a demonic mount, and then I just put him on Zinch, or I take Slanesh. I've been battling between those two. Marker Nurgle's great, but I don't want to see combat.
Right.
Slanesh, I like the signature because it can make things strike last.
Yep.
That's a good one. And then obviously Blue Fire, just a complete, it's another fireball.
Right.
Just a little stronger. Less range, but more hit, So.
Yeah. Alright, so we'll have to figure out what the next iteration of game is.
Mm-hmm.
Find out if we can get it on a more elfy, water themed, Lothar and Seagar mat, and some of the training, and figure out what point level and whether we're going to do the more core hammer thing, and point levels from there.
Alright, that'll be the rematch.
Yep.
Well, thanks for coming, guys.
Yeah,
Like, share, subscribe, hit the bell, join the horde, and we will see you in the next one.
See ya.